Hola a todos, mi nombre es Hawani. Simple Spanish grammar lessons for beginners using the words tan and como to make a comparison between things that are very similar. First of all, why is this important in Spanish? Well, the reason is because the more you can express yourself in Spanish, the more depth it'll add to your conversations, and the more confident you'll be overall when you're speaking with native speakers. Now, here's some examples of what we're going to go through today. Javier es tan fuerte como su hermano. María es tan bonita como su madre. No he conocido a nadie tan inteligente como tú. As you can see, it's something very useful to be able to express in your Spanish conversation. So what we're going to do now is break it all down for you so that you first understand the formula. Then we'll go through some exercises and some examples so that you can start adding this into your Spanish conversations today. Great, now let's get started. First of all, what is the formula? The formula is tan. We then use the adverb or the adjective that we want to use. We then make the comparison by saying como, and then we finish off the sentence. So tan plus the adverb or adjective, then we make the comparison using como, and then we finish off the sentence. Now let's use an example. Example number 1, Pablo is so tall like his parents. Pablo es tan alto como sus padres. Pablo es tan alto como sus padres. So first of all, you'll notice here we're talking about Pablo's height. So remember, when we're talking about someone's physical traits or something permanent about their personality, we use the verb ser. So Pablo es tan, so he is so tall. Pablo es tan alto. Then we make the comparison, como sus padres. So like his parents. Pablo es tan alto como sus padres. Great job. So you can see it's not too complicated, isn't it? All right, let's go for another example, but this time let's use another verb. So you speak so fast like your sister. You speak so fast like your sister. Hablas tan rápido como tu hermana. Hablas tan rápido como tu hermana. First of all, you can see we're using the verb to speak, so we have to use the verb hablar. We then say tan rápido, so you speak so fast. Then we make the comparison, como tu hermana. So make the comparison like your sister. Cool, so how are things going so far? Is everything starting to sink in now? You can see it's not too difficult really, isn't it, to understand how to make this construction, but if it still doesn't click for you yet, don't worry, we will go through a few more examples. Next one, Lucia is so busy like her friends. Lucia está tan ocupada como sus amigas. Lucia está tan ocupada como sus amigas. First of all, if we break it down, you can see here we're using the verb estar because we're talking about Lucia being busy, but it's in a temporary sense. So she's busy at this particular moment, but we're not saying that she's busy all the time throughout her life. We're just talking about this specific period of time. So we use the verb estar. So Lucia está tan ocupada. So tan ocupada, so we make it feminine because we're talking about Lucia. We then make the comparison, como sus amigas. We're talking about her friends here in this particular context, which are all girls. So we say amigas, so we make it feminine. But remember, if it's a mixture of guys and girls, we'd say amigos, and we'd also say amigos if it's all guys that she's talking about. Before we move on, another very useful way to use this construction is using it with the verb haber as an auxiliary and talking about things in the past and linking our comparisons to things in the present. Now, about a month ago, we did a video on the verb haber as an auxiliary. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link in the description box for you below. But just remember as well, before we go into the next example, if you are getting any value from these videos, I'd really appreciate it if you consider liking the video and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Cool, so let's jump into the next example, again using the verb haber. I have not met anyone as nice as Antonio. No he conocido a nadie tan simpático como Antonio. No he conocido a nadie tan simpático como Antonio. If we break this example down, again we're using the verb haber, talking in the past, so I have not met. No he conocido a nadie, anyone. Then we make the comparison, tan simpático, as nice or so nice, como Antonio. Making the comparison like Antonio. Great job, everyone. Now, let's go through a few examples to make sure everything is starting to make sense for you and that you are ready to go out there and start adding these into your Spanish conversations. So you know what to do. I'm going to give you some sentences and I want you to translate these sentences for me using the structure that we've been through today, and I want you to translate it for me over into Spanish. Let's get started. Exercise number 1, translate this for me over into Spanish. She is so skinny like her mum. She is so skinny like her mum. How would you say that in Spanish? This time you'd say, ella es tan delgada como su madre. Ella es tan delgada como su madre. So you can see there, if we break it down, again, we're talking about a physical trait. So we use the verb ser. Ella es tan delgada. So we say delgada because we're talking about a female. So we have to make that feminine. Then we make the comparison, como su madre. Moving forward, next example. My son is so independent like his grandfather. So my son is so independent like his grandfather. How would you say that? Cool. This time you'd say, mi hijo es tan independiente como tu abuelo. So, mi hijo es tan independiente como su abuelo. Again, if we break this down, we use the verb ser because we're talking about a permanent characteristic about my son's personality in this particular example. So, mi hijo es tan independiente. Then we make the comparison, como su abuelo, like his grandfather. Let's go one more. This time, my daughter cooks so well or so good like her grandmother. So my daughter cooks so good or so well like her grandmother. How would you say that? This time you'd say, mi hija cocina tan bien como su abuela. Mi hija cocina tan bien como su abuela. Again, if we break this down, this time we're talking about cooking. So we use the verb cocinar. So mi hija cocina tan bien. So she cooks so good or so well like her grandmother. Como su abuela. Great job, everyone. Let me know how you're going with your Spanish. I hope that helps. If you have any other questions or if I can help with anything else, of course, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Hasta pronto.